Hey guys, thanks for coming to check out my channel today. So today we are going to be talking about my cancer story and how I got diagnosed with cancer, what kind of cancer I have, what treatment is going to look like, and I'll hopefully just kind of clear up some questions that some people may have, because the kind of cancer I have is very rare and it's kind of difficult to explain. So I'm going to try to do my best. Anyways, if you want to hear my cancer story, please just keep on watching. Okay, so this started, let's see. Well, first of all, I just got my diagnosis on August 2nd and it's September 4th right now. I believe it's the 4th. It is Labor Day. And so I have known I had cancer, or I have cancer, for a month now. It has been like, I want to say like it's been like a really long month, but like it's gone by so fast and so much has happened in the last month. It's just hard to even like wrap my head around it all. Anyway, so I guess I'll just tell you like when I started feeling bad and then how I ended up getting my diagnosis. So it started off one night. I was at home and my legs were, one of my legs, my right leg, was super swollen. I'd been at work all day and I hadn't noticed it. Got home and I was changing my clothes and I was like, why is my leg so swollen? And it was just one leg. It was like my ankle and my foot, and like my calf on my right leg. And I've never had swelling before. Like, I think the only time I've ever had swelling in my legs was after I was pregnant, like right after I had my baby, and like all the hormones like released or something, and I was a little swollen for like a couple of days. Anyway, so I started freaking out because it was only one leg. And I was like, what if there's a blood clot in my leg? Like, that is very dangerous. I had a friend who passed away whenever she was 18 because she had a blood clot in her leg and it went to her heart. And she had a pulmonary embolism. And, things like that are just crazy. They can just happen and, there's no warning. So I called my doctor the next day and they wanted me to come in. So I came in and he thought the same thing that I thought, that maybe it's a blood clot. So he sent me down for an ultrasound on my leg and turns out it wasn't. So he gave me a diuretic. I forget what this one is called. I think it started with a T. I don't remember what it's called. And he was like, take these, for the swelling, it'll go away. And I'm like, well, what if it doesn't go away? And he's like, well, it will. And I'm like, okay. Because first of all, like, I'm not one to just be like, okay, let me take a medicine for it when I don't know what the cause of it is, right? Like, I don't like that. So what did I do? So I took the medicine and it didn't go away and I started feeling like shit. I was throwing up. I was exhausted. Like, it was just like so bad. Like, I was throwing up all the time. I couldn't do anything, couldn't go to work, felt like crap. So I called my doctor. I'm like, I think this medicine is making me sick. Can I try something different? Is there something else you can give me? So he prescribed me something else and I stopped taking that one. He gave me another one that started with an S. Took that one, it didn't work. So this is probably like over a week now, and I was so swollen one day at work, and I was still like sick every morning, mind you, okay? Like, I would just throw up in the morning, but it would be like nothing. Like, it would just be like clear, or like some bile, I guess, from sleeping during the night. Also during this time I was having severe like night sweats. I was running a fever, like a low grade fever. I think the highest I got was like 100.2 or something like that. Anyways, one day after work, and I was on the second medication, the second diuretic, and I was so swollen that I literally felt like my legs were gonna explode. I was like, is that possible? Is that a thing? Like, can your legs explode from being so swollen? Like, it was insane, like how like my calves, and it was like going from my feet to my ankles to my calves. At this point I don't really think my abdomen was that swollen. I still think it was like in my lower extremities. I don't really remember though, because still, this is back in May, right? So I go to the hospital, and they did what did she do on me? They did chest x-rays. They did an ultrasound on both legs to check for a blood clot. She did blood work. My liver came back fine. My kidneys came back fine. She mentioned something about seeing a little proteins. My chest x-rays came back fine. So this ER doctor, she was like, I have no idea like what's causing your swelling. You know, I'm not sure. I want you to go to a kidney specialist. So I was like, okay. Well, I do have like this rare kidney disease called like medullary sponge kidney disease. I really don't have any symptoms from that. It just can cause like kidney stones in the future, but I've been fortunate. I don't have a lot of kidney pain. Sometimes I would get like urinary tract infections from that, but that's a whole different disease. I can talk about that one later, but that one doesn't really affect my life so much. So anyway, so I was like, okay. So at the same time that this was happening in May, my birth control, I had the Mirena, the IUD, had expired in March. And I was like, okay, well, you know, because I was having the hot flashes, and I was just like so hot all the time. Like I would literally, I'd be sitting, like, I remember being at my daughter's dance recital, and I was sitting next to my mom, and I am on fire. I'm like fanning myself. I am so hot. And I look at her and I'm like, isn't it hot in here? I'm like burning up. And she was like, no. I look around the room like no one else is fanning themselves, and I'm like, I'm so hot, right? And I live in Texas, and this is like what, May, so it's not even like that hot yet. Oh, so I was like, okay, you know what if I'm going through menopause, right? Or like early menopause. I had just turned 30. I turned 30 in May. On May 13th was my birthday. So I was like, oh my gosh, I turned 30 and I'm going through menopause. I'm gonna go to my gyno and I'm gonna see what he has to say. And I had to get the IUD taken out anyway, so I was like, while I'm there, I'll mention this to him. So, you know, while he's down there doing his thing, I was like, I think I'm going, like, this is what's happening to me. And I told him that I had gotten the diuretic from my GP, and that I had went to the hospital for the swelling. Oops, oh, okay, my ring light, sorry. I went to the hospital for the swelling. That doctor had given me a prescription for Lasix. It starts, like, the other name starts with, like, an F. That's another diuretic that helps with, I think it's used for, oh my god, high blood pressure, which I don't have. But it also is used for, like, the swelling, the water weight, right? It gets rid of it's like a water pill, gets rid of all the water. And the Lasix work better than the other things that my GP had prescribed me. So, but I was still swollen. At this point now, I'm swollen in my abdomen. I'm still throwing up. I'm still having a fever. I'm still having hot flashes. This is like at the end of May at this point, right? And so I asked my gyno, I'm like, you know, what if I'm going through menopause or I'm having like a thyroid problem? And he was like, you're not going through menopause. And I was like, how do you know? And he's like, well, are you over 50? And I'm like, no, but still, like, how do you know? And he was like, okay. He was like, I'll send you for a CBC, like a complete blood count. And so, you know, I'll just run all the blood work on you, and I will sit you for an echocardiogram. He said that's what I should have got at the hospital, not just the x-rays. The echocardiogram shows you like, it's like an ultrasound of your heart, and it's to check for heart failure. And because that one of the signs of heart failure is swelling. It's called edema, but it's swelling. So I was like, oh my god, you know, and I'm like, heart failure, oh, so whatever. So I do that. That came back normal. What didn't come back normal was my white blood count. My white blood count was at, I think at this point, like 16,000, and you were supposed to be anywhere from like 2 to 10,000 for your white blood count. So it also said on there that some of them looked abnormal. So he sends all my blood results, my gyno sends them to my GP, my general practitioner, right? This is my family doctor. I've had him since I was like 16 years old. My mom goes to him too, so I trust him. You know, he looks at my results, and he is concerned about my white blood count being high. And then, okay, so you have your white blood cells, right? And they are divided up into many different cells. And one of these cells is your lymphocytes. And if you didn't know, your white blood cells are like what happens whenever you have an infection, which is like why you have a fever, because your white blood cells will come into play and start doing what they're supposed to be doing and killing the infection, right? That's what your white blood cells do versus your, you know, you have your red blood cells and your platelets, okay? So, I'd had this happen before with my white blood cells back in college. I don't remember how old I was, probably like 22 maybe, and my white blood count was at like 40,000, and I remember my mom freaking out at me, just being like, what? Because my white blood count was that high whenever I was younger, and my appendix burst and the poison had spread all over my body. Back then in college, they didn't know what it was. They never figured it out. They never found out. He just gave me an antibiotic, a shot, and then like a round of like I'm allergic to penicillin, so it was like a round of the Z-Pack or whatever. And I went back for a follow-up, and I was fine. Anyway, so now I'm at like 16,000 in my white blood count. And your white blood counts, or your white blood cells, are divided up into different cells. You have your neutrophils, some other ones, and your lymphocytes. And whenever you have a CBC, a complete blood count, they can see how many cells of each white blood cell you have. And I had an abundance of lymphocytes. And you're supposed to have like neutrophils are what you're supposed to have the most of. That's what kill like viruses and stuff like that. And then lymphocytes is what you're supposed to have the next of, and then it goes down. Well, mine was high, so my doctor was like, okay, come back in a week, and we are going to run a blood test on you. So I was like, cool. So they come back, run a blood test on me. My white blood count had went up to like 18,000. Come back in a week. He just wanted to make sure, because I didn't have any signs of an infection, like nothing. I'm still having the symptoms of like being sweaty, being hot, night sweats, vomiting, the swelling. Now at this point, I'd put on 30 pounds of water weight. I was swollen in my abdomen, my face, my hands, like my legs still was very swollen. So I came back like in another week, and they had gone up to like 20,000. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna send you to a hematologist. I'm like, okay. So I get referred to the hematology and oncology center at a hospital here in Dallas. And at this point, I'm like, fuck. Because of course, what do you think I do? Of course, I get on Google, and Google's never good. But I was concerned that it was, and I had also developed like this burning pain like in my shoulder blade. So I'm talking about like bad ass pain, okay? Like I'd be like yelling, it hurt so bad. It was just like the sharp burning, and my mom would have to put like I was staying at my mom's house like on the weekends, and she'd have to like put pressure on it, or like if I was sitting somewhere, I'd have to like put pressure on it because it hurt so bad. Anyway, so I was like, fuck, like I thought it was lupus. That was like my first concern. That's like pretty common in like African American women. And for those that don't know, I am mixed, and I have already some like traits that are more predominant in the African American community. Like I carry the sickle cell trait and just some other things. But so I was worried it was lupus, mostly because of the pain in the shoulder, the fatigue, and the swelling, and the age that I'm at. Lupus can onset, I mean, at any time really, but it's common in like your childbearing years. So I thought it was lupus, and let me tell you, like the fatigue, I'm talking like extreme fatigue, okay? Not just like, oh, I'm tired. I've always been tired. I used to go to a counselor like after my divorce for a really long time, and she'd always be like, how are you today? And be like, tired. She's like, well, that's not like a feeling. And she would always tell me like, you need to go get a physical, and I'm like, I feel fine. I'm just tired. Like, it should be normal for me to be tired. I'm a single mom. I'm in, you know, graduate school. I work full time. Like, who would not be tired if they were me, right? But this was like getting to the point of like extremely like just tired all of the time. Like on the weekend, like I could get up and go to work, and on the weekends I'd be like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to film, I want to do like, you know, just all kinds of things. And instead of that even happening, I would lay down and like sleep all day. And if like my daughter was with my mom, I would literally like sleep all day on Saturday and Sunday. And so I finally had my first appointment with my hematologist in July. And mind you, like I'm gonna die like before I get in to see her. It's like how bad I felt and how long it took me for them to like set up an appointment, right? I was just like miserable. Finally get in to see her, and this was at the hematology/oncology clinic. So I was concerned that I had cancer. The one that I thought I had is called CLL. It's like chronic lymphocyte leukemia. Because my lymphocytes were high, because they looked abnormal under the microscope, because of my symptoms, I was concerned that this is what I had. So, either that or lupus, right? So I go to the appointment, and she doesn't think it's lupus. She's like, have you ever had, you know, has anyone ever told you you've had lupus before? And I'm like, well, no, but it's not like something you catch and goes away. You know what I mean? Like, what? I was like, no. So she didn't think that. She wouldn't tell me, like, what she got. She wouldn't tell me what she was looking for or what it could be. All she told me was that I got more blood taken, and I had to do this like 24-hour like urine analysis, which was disgusting. I don't know, checking for something that starts with a C, I don't remember, to like explain the weight gain. She wasn't sure about like the swelling, and she was going to send me for a CT scan to check my abdomen to see if there was any blockage in there, like if my lymph nodes were enlarged, that might be causing some of the swelling. When she pushed on my spleen, I almost like came off the table. It hurt so bad. So I was a little concerned about that too, as far as it being like cancer. And I think she was thinking the same thing, but she wouldn't tell me. So we got done with that appointment, and we had to wait for the nurse to come back to I guess set up the next appointment. And I just kind of like lost my shit. I just started crying. I was just like overwhelmed because of where I was. I mean, here I am at 30 years old with a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm a single mom, and I'm sitting in a hematology and oncology clinic. And it just really, really, really just started to like sink in of like where I was at and what was happening to me. So that was hard. The nurses were so sweet. Like, she came in and she gave me a hug. My mom was at the appointment with me, so, you know, she's trying to comfort me, and I'm just, like, crying, like, I don't want to have cancer. And, you know, the nurse was like, don't worry until she tells you to worry. You know, she'll get to the bottom, talking about my doctor, she'll get to the bottom of what this is. She is a professor at the UT Southwestern, so, you know, she has resources available to her, and even if she doesn't know what it is, she will send it to, like, the Mayo Clinic if she has to, and figure it out. So she was just really reassuring that they were going to get to the bottom of this and that everything was going to be okay. So I leave that appointment and wait for my next one, wait for my CT scan. I don't remember, like, how many more weeks. Maybe this was, like, 3 weeks or so in between those appointments. I don't remember. So I go in for the CT scan. I had to drink that nasty barium. And then, of course, during the scan, they give you, like, some IV contrast, and it makes you feel like you pissed all over yourself, which is so gross. But you don't pee on yourself. It's just, like, this really warm sensation, like, go all the way through your body, and honestly, it almost burns. But, yeah, so the CT scan was fine. That's easy breezy. So I did the CT scan, and then I get a call that she got the lab results back. She couldn't find anything conclusive, so she wanted me to come back in and get lab work, and they were gonna send it to the Mayo Clinic. And at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm, like, freaking out, because I'm like, okay, she sees something. Like, if she didn't see anything, that would be different, but she saw something and doesn't know what it is, and it's being sent off. So there's something wrong, and it's got to be pretty damn rare, right?